Hello everyone, I am 1920s Flapper Minion Michelle, and today for this Random Talk Sunday, I thought it would be interesting to briefly address something that I think is very important around this time of year, in particular when it involves Halloween, and that is Halloween decorations. Yes, um, like Christmas, and maybe some various other holidays. Oftentimes you'll find people like to sort of decorate their houses, at least within the United States, that's fairly common. Um, and in doing so, it's sort of in order to kind of sort of celebrate the holiday. Um, and what I really like about um, Halloween decorations in particular is that they have a lot of variety to them. And there's a lot of different and interesting ways in which people sort of decorate their houses. Sometimes they'll even put a haunted house within their house, where people can go and get the bejeebers scared out of them. But basically, um, from spider webs, skeletons, pumpkins, graveyard tombstones, scarecrows, etc., those are really um, the sort of basic kinds of various decorations that sort of exist around this time of year, and the ones that I particularly enjoy the most. Some go, I think, a little bit too far for my taste, in particular the ones that are fairly gory. I mean, there's some, like, literally, like, when you go to some of the Halloween stores, they'll have, like, these very elaborately gory body parts and sometimes people that are, like, cut in half and, or, like, these very zombie-like, you know, plastic figures, and some of them sometimes crawl too. So it's very creepy and oftentimes a little bit too much for me. But at the same time, there's a variety of different scales in which people like to, I think, kind of sort of commemorate the holiday. They'll either be super out there and gory, or sometimes they'll just be kind of just simple and innocent. But the whole tradition of decorating on Halloween actually stems from the origin of Halloween, which was discussed by Minion in a previous video last year. But basically, beginning with jack-o'-lanterns, in particular pumpkins that have their faces cut out, this was started primarily by the holiday that was done in ancient times that is oftentimes associated with Halloween. And that was sort of to ward off evil spirits, so they would make these very scary looking sort of face lanterns and try to ward the evil spirits away. And it would be the same thing with skeletons too. Like sometimes you would even find people sort of dressed up as skeletons in order to scare the spirits away, so to speak, because it was supposed to be originally a holiday about the dead and about the dead sort of coming to life. And so that's also something important to note. And the interesting thing too is bats have often been associated for decoration, and in particular Halloween, because basically in ancient times they would have these sort of bonfires, and sometimes they would use that for like animal sacrifices or something. And the bugs would be attracted to the light, and bats like to eat bugs, so they would swarm by the bonfires and eat all the bugs. So that's also something that I think is important to know. Like, oftentimes people might just think it's just because bats seem fairly intimidating and scary, and they're often associated with vampires. But it's also, too, because of the ways in which, um, logically speaking, bats came in contact with those who sort of initially brought out the whole concept of Halloween. Um, but uh, it's interesting because you notice the various symbolism that exists throughout Halloween, whether it be um, a black cat that somebody will put up, or a witch, a broomstick. There's just so many different kinds of symbols in which people oftentimes put as part of decorations to Halloween. I think, I think for me personally, I think the houses that I enjoy the most are not necessarily the ones that are most elaborate, but do offer some kind of creative touch to them. Um, and I think oftentimes you can find that um, as you sort of explore throughout your neighborhood. Because I think there's some people who really enjoy doing the whole festivity and really get into it, and sometimes they'll have like animatronic um, ghost-like figures or things like that that'll come and pop out everywhere. Or even sometimes the people that you go to the houses to, they sometimes try to pop out and scare the kids or something. So throughout the years, at least from my experience, Halloween decorations have often been largely trying to give off the various things that you would often come to associate with when it comes to Halloween. And in doing so, you create sort of a, a sort of dedication to the way in which it sort of started and kind of passing that along. And obviously there is some differences when you look at the ways in which in ancient times people sort of celebrated Halloween and used decorations, whereas nowadays it's just sort of more of like fun and not really designed to be taken all too seriously. But yeah, those are just really my thoughts when it comes to the various decorations. I think they're all quite fascinating and interesting. Love to hear what people put up around this time of year and what they like to have on their lawns. Like sometimes people put the tombstones on their lawns or put jack-o'-lanterns or whatnot on their lawns. So it's not only the house itself, but also the places that surround the house too that get sort of decorated. And it's the same with other holidays too, like Christmas and whatnot. But Halloween in particular is rather interesting because there is a lot of variety with what you can do as far as decorating is concerned. And yeah, I think there's just a lot of fun and interesting stuff. And each house is sort of unique and different. And I sort of like seeing the variety that exists in a lot of these houses. But I think that's really ultimately all I can say for this video. Love to hear what everybody else has to say about this particular topic. But yeah, that's ultimately all I think I can address for this video. Hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year, and hopefully next week, the minions can be all caught up. See, the problem is next week we still have another meeting that we have to be present at, so that's going to take up a good chunk of our time, unfortunately. But hopefully by Wednesday, all the videos can be uploaded that need to be uploaded for next week. But it might be Thursday, so just sit tight. It'll all be there. But yeah, I think that's really ultimately all I can say. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year. And hopefully I can come back next year. And I also did a previous video, so feel free to check that out. And also the little girl minion, as well as I believe another minion as well. Did a video for last year, so feel free to check that out as well. Actually, I think it was the little girl minion was actually the only one, at least for the videos that are going to be uploaded for today that did a previous video last year. But thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.